Hello and welcome. This is class number 11 of Decoding PSIR through Answer Writing series. This is an initiative specifically for those who have chosen PSIR as their optional subject in the UPSC Mains examinations or who are planning to take PSIR as their optional subject. In this series, if you are new, let me tell you what do we do. We take a previous year question that UPSC has asked specifically from the theory part because those questions keep on getting repeated. We try and study that topic in detail so that you can either revise that topic if you have studied that already, or you can learn that topic from the scratch, and then we try and answer the question given. The reason to do this is, as I said, UPSC has this habit that at least from the theory part, you do see questions getting repeated. The wordings may be different, but the context of the question largely remains very same. On the other hand, it also aims to achieve the objective of helping you revise these topics if you have already studied them on your own or in some classes. Before we begin, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do hit the subscribe button. If you want the PDF of all these lectures, you can just join the Telegram channel. The link is in the description of that video and you will be able to download all these PDFs. Now let's begin and see what is today's question and today's topic that we'll be discussing. Today we have taken up a question that was asked in just 2023, that's the last mains paper. It was a 200 word question of 15 marks. The question was on affirmative action. Now affirmative action, if you look, is a topic from equality. If you look at the syllabus of PSIR, paper 1 part A, look at those topics and you will see one of the important topics is equality, where we discuss about different types of equalities, political equality and then social equality, economic equality, so on and so forth, different aspects of equality, debates such as reservation come in the picture. Over here, one very important and interesting topic is affirmative action. This is what the question is about. The question is, affirmative action policies draws as much strong criticism as strong support. Analyze this statement in the context of equality. So basically they are telling you that the concept of affirmative action has its supporters and also has its opponents. So there are some people who support this and there are some people who are against this. Analyze means give both the sides of the argument about how affirmative action works. So let's first try and discuss what is affirmative action and then we'll come back to it. Now, you might have heard about affirmative action, especially when you read about reservation. Just like in India, we have historical proof to believe that there are certain sections of the society that were discriminated against in the past. The Dalit community, the scheduled tribes, the other backward classes. There is enough proof now to suggest the fact that a lot of these communities have been deprived of opportunities in the past, and now there is a need to bring them at par with others. How do you bring them at par with others? By giving them preferential treatment. And that usually looks like reservation. Now, in Indian context, you're all aware of reservation and how we are trying to benefit certain section of the society and bring them at par with others by giving them better opportunities. But it is not an India-specific phenomena. It's actually a phenomenon that is seen around the entire world. In America, the same is the view about the black community, that black and the African American community, they have been discriminated against in the past. Most of the government jobs were not given to them. Most of the government contracts were not given to them. So they also deserve to be given some extra opportunities. This is what is meant by affirmative action. So affirmative action in simple terms is an approach of the government of the day to give preferential treatment to those communities who have been or who have been kept deprived of certain opportunities in the past. That is a simple way to define affirmative action. And again, this is not an India-specific concept. It's seen around the world. You see in many different countries, there are policies to ensure that those who were discriminated against in the past, they now get better opportunities so that you can bring them at par with the other population in the society. To understand that, you also have to understand a big debate called the reverse discrimination debate. Now, what do you mean by reverse discrimination? A lot of you who, for example, do not support reservation, your argument is that if the government is giving reservation, let's say to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward class or EWS, allowing them to clear the exam with lower cutoff. Isn't that also discrimination? That's an argument given by most of the people who are arguing against reservation. The argument is, isn't this a kind of discrimination only? It's just reverse discrimination. So rather than bringing someone equal, you are actually now favoring them. I'll give you a simple example. Today, for example, if I tell you that women earn less than men for the same job that they do, that is called the gender pay gap. Now, if I ask you what is the opposite of it, if you say the opposite is that now women should be paid more, the problem is you're not solving the problem even then. Problem will be solved when they will be equal. If you say women are lower, I'll bring them higher than men. Problem solved? No, problem is still not solved because still you have not achieved equality. This is the argument given by people who talk about reverse discrimination. That you are still not bringing equality in the society. You are still specifically pushing certain sections of the society, and maybe after 100, 200 years, then you have to again reverse the cycle. So when exactly are we going to achieve equality? If 200 years ago there was a certain section was discriminated against, now you tell them that now you'll have an upper hand and others will have a lower hand, and then again you will keep on reversing this. That is the entire debate around reverse discrimination. So in the US, for example, when the government started this affirmative action policy, started making sure that blacks were given certain preferential treatment in certain jobs, etc., there was a lot of debate against it. There was a lot of protest against it. Many people called it reverse discrimination. Now, this reverse discrimination, again, there are two ways to look at it. One way, as we discussed, you are still discriminating in the society. The other way to look at it is you are not discriminating, you are trying to bring them at par. And when they are equal, then you may think about removing the entire clause of reservation. For those who support it, they say preferential treatment will help them in achieving the objective of equality, as I told you. Having more representation amongst important professions, be it lawyers, doctors, etc., will bring a much better holistic approach in the society, where they will be open to treating many more people of different kinds. For example, it's not to say that a white lawyer will not be able to defend a black client. But if there is a black lawyer, he would have more empathy towards the clients who are from his community. They would be able to understand their troubles much more intricately as compared to the others. And this is why it's important to have representation at all the levels. This is where we need reverse discrimination. Attached to that and related to that is the idea of affirmative action. As I said, affirmative action is not just in India. It happens around the world, usually in the form of reservation only. In simple terms, it's a kind of preferential treatment done to compensate those sections of the society that have been or that have faced injustice in the past. With sections, women, black community, minority community, backward communities, it can be different in different countries. For example, in India, we do it on the basis of caste. In America, they do it on the basis of race. It can be different, but that is how affirmative action works. Now, for affirmative action also, there are different arguments. Some people support it, some people are against it. Those who are the opponents of affirmative action, they say that you have to ensure equality of opportunity. With affirmative action, you are still not bringing equality. If a general category student requires 100 marks to clear the UPSC Prelims exam, why is it that a scheduled tribe student can clear it in 65 marks? Why is it that a scheduled caste student can clear it in 85 marks? This is what a lot of people who are against affirmative action say, that you are still not bringing equality. So affirmative action is, if it was a way to bring equality, you are not achieving that. You are just eroding any respect for merit, because all these examinations ideally should be on the basis of merit. If you are meritorious enough, you should be able to clear it. If you are not meritorious enough, you should not. And that is what the opponents of the affirmative action theory say. Some others argue affirmative action is just like procedural justice. That the point is that if our previous generation did something wrong, we should not be held responsible for that. in America, there's a big debate of black versus white. The idea is that if 3 generations back, there was a white man who kept certain people as slaves, does it mean that the 3rd generation of the white man should now compensate to the 3rd generation of the black slaves? Because it is not his fault that his grandfather or great-grandfather did this. So you are just passing this on as a burden, as a debt to next generations. That is also why affirmative action is opposed. You are penalizing those who are not at fault of theirs. What is the fault of these people who are scoring more and still not getting through? You are penalizing them for something that their ancestors might have done. In the Indian context, affirmative action mainly is with regards to reservation. Now, in India, we do have a big debate of reservation, but understand this: in India, the debate on reservation became big mainly after 1990s, after the OBC reservation came into the picture. From the beginning of our constitution, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe reservation has existed, and there were not many opponents of it. Not many people opposed reservation being into scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Reservation was opposed by some people when OBC community or OBC quota was introduced and the EWS quota was introduced. In India, the debate is not on the basis of the race. In America, it's a race-based issue, the whites and the blacks, etc. In India specifically, reservation has been termed as legal by the Supreme Court multiple times. There were fears that when reservation is given amongst the reserved community, very few people will keep on taking advantage of it, which is true. It does happen. You do see a few families, generation after generations, taking advantage of these reservations, continuously getting great jobs, continuously getting high paid jobs, while others are kept away from the benefit. That's where Supreme Court also introduced the concept of creamy layer amongst the OBC. The problem is that creamy layer still does not exist among scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Among scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, doesn't matter. Even if you have taken benefit of reservation, your next generation can still avail the same benefits. So that's a debate of a different type, but this is what happens in Indian context. Now we are ready to write this answer. The question was, again, affirmative action policies draws as much strong criticism as strong support. Analyze the statement in the context of equality. So now we have read enough about it. In the intro, we will define what is affirmative action, and then in the main body, we will give arguments given in support and arguments given against it, both of which we have discussed. So first, we will define what is affirmative action. These are policies designed to address historical and ongoing inequalities and discrimination by giving preferential treatment to members of historically disadvantaged groups. They are usually given opportunities or better opportunities in employment, education, etc. Then we will give arguments in support of affirmative action. For example, there have been groups like the African American women indigenous population that has been discriminated against in the past. It's important to create a level playing field to increase their representation at the higher levels. Affirmative action promotes diversity and representation in workspace and education institutions. That is how we'll write pointers in support. Similarly, points against it, as I said, the people who are opposed to it, they said this is a kind of reverse discrimination. This is not bringing any equality. This is even stigmatizing the beneficiaries. So a lot of people who are taking benefit of reservation, they may be at the receiving end of criticism. It stigmatizes a community. That happened in India also. If you think that a certain person has taken away the seat that belonged to you, there may be a stigma attached to that, and there may be a feeling of an emotion that can come in. These are arguments given against affirmative action, and then we'll conclude by how affirmative action is a reality around the entire world. There are views on both the sides. However, the idea of affirmative action is not to continue it for unlimited amount of time. It cannot carry on till perpetuity. It has to end. Our aim should be to create an equal and just society, and once we have achieved that goal, affirmative action, these policies can go away in favor of equality. That's how we can conclude this, and this is where we conclude this session. I hope you learned something new today. Reminding you, this series has a video Mondays, Wednesday, Fridays at 4 p.m. Do join me for the next one and do hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. Jai Hind.